Jacco van der Kooij. I'm the founder and co-CEO of Winning by Design. And on this channel, we talk about B2B, business to business, and primarily marketing, sales, and customer success. We talk about some initiatives, new innovations that create a customer-centric point of view to marketing, sales, and customer success. And today, I love to share with you the difference between activity and productivity and the importance of shifting to a productivity-driven workforce. So welcome. Today, I'm going to start off with the following. We are facing a 2021 opportunity. Opportunity is big. And I always wonder, what would I do if I can go back? What would I change and fix? If I could go back to 2006 or 2007 or to 2000, 2001, what would happen? What would I do? Well, today I'm going to share with you some of these practices that hopefully help you benefit from some of the things we see right now. And we see them at a far larger volume than you, because at Winning by Design, we help 30 to 40 customers every month. So we get a lot of these insights gathered in volume at the current point in time. Now, what I would love to you for today is to think a little bit back about where we were not too long ago. Okay? If you think back, and go back a few weeks, a few months, and we go back, what seemingly seems to be like a lifetime ago, but was only a year ago. At the time we worked together, open workspaces everywhere, we loved that. Do you remember this? Oh my gosh. We had lunch together. We would go for coffee walks together. We had such a great time. We even played together. The great fun we had, working, exercises, whatever it was. We did everything during work together and after hours together. It was an exciting time. But then, suddenly, overnight, everything was gone. Gone. So, now the question is, now what? What are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with the situation we are dealt with? What I want to demonstrate to you in today's session is the importance of a productivity-driven workforce. While we see remote, we need to be productivity-focused. Whereas in a more physical on-site, we have often been geared towards an activity-driven. I'm going to explain a little bit from the history on how these things go. Startups are normally highly productive organizations. And as you see, as they are so productive, they are super agile, they're really creative, and as the founders start growing and people get more, and you grow revenue, these organizations are very productive. This is the reason why they are so successful. But then at a certain point in time in revenue, they're starting to build structure because they have to ship equipment, they have to ship software, they have to do something. And in order to do that, they are building, rightfully so, as you may know very well, topics that we talk about, a structure and processes. And they convert that, highly dynamic environment into an organization that obeys processes. But as that organization keeps growing, you see that some of that productivity mindset is lost. And it turns more and more into an activity-driven organization, of which often it feels like a corporate structure, and it measures itself across departments in volume. How many MQLs, marketing qualified leads, did the marketing organization create? How many deals did the sales organization win? How much recurring revenue did we establish? If you go to customer success, how many onboardings, how many active customers, what is our NPS score? All these things measure in volume and volume and volume. As a result, you often see that companies end up having designed their own jail cell. It feels like at the end of the day, they have booked too much dashboards with all volume metrics. They have booked themselves full of meetings the entire day in, day out. Those meetings are all remotely, and it feels like you're in a jail cell. Where did that go? Where did we lose it? I want you to understand that much of this it's because it's based on an activity-driven approach. In this activity-driven approach, we essentially, when we were meeting on site and when we were looking at each other, we assumed people were productive by seeing them being on site, by seeing them in the hallway. It creates a 9-to-5 mindset. We're looking more at attendance than really deliverables. As we start measuring volume metrics, these separations even take place more. Like how many MQLs did this campaign generate? How many MQLs did that campaign generate? We are measuring our productivity in the form of volume metrics. It really is an earmark of these organizations. Once we started to become remote, like starting in February, March this year, suddenly that 9 to 5 approach started to run into issues. How do we measure somebody when they come in at 9 or leave at 5? How do we address attendance? We're no longer interested in volume metrics. We're interested in what those volume metrics mean, and we have to learn how to get that remotely. I'm not as worried whether you work 9 to 5 or whether you start at 9 or whether you work 8 hours a day or whether you work in the middle of the night, which time zone you work in, and where you live. It has become a very different way. Now, what we notice, if you're not careful, tools can be a great thing to help you. Slack can be a great thing, but you can abuse the tool as well. And, like not too long ago, I was horrified to learn that people are essentially looking at these green lights at Slack and seeing that as an indicator. And, like in my case at 11:29 p.m. last night, imagine like Dawn is in this case still working. Jeremiah has his computer on, but has gone off to sleep for good reason because he's on the East Coast, and so on and so forth. How can we go into a world like this where we are looking at each other's green light and indicating that is a time of work? We don't care. In a world where we live today, it doesn't matter whether you are working, whether you're active or not. What matters is, did you deliver what you've committed to? Now, the world in itself is changing as well. And I'll give you an example. I was struck the other day when we internally were discussing, like we need to take off during Christmas and we need to let everybody know that Christmas is okay. Because in this world where productivity matters and activity doesn't, please do not work, folks. Everybody enjoy your time off. What I came, however, to realize is that in the current situation that we're in, for many people all around the world, these remote companies and being part of a remote company is the only infrastructure that they actually have. It's the only structure that resembles a form of society. It's the only part where they communicate via Slack and easily set up a session, can see each other. For many of us out there, that may not be as easily and widely available to do with friends and family and loved ones. And so other than with the direct people surrounding you, for many during this Christmas, we're going to see that work, you may not have to shut it down. For some people, it may be their only way that they can wish other people Merry Christmas or receive Merry Christmas, best messages and stuff like that. So aside from the holiday festivities, I want you to think about that the world has changed and that we are in a change in a very different environment. Now, how do we make sure that we don't miss that opportunity in that environment? How do we make sure that we leverage what is given, that we turn all these things around and that we see and we notice the opportunity in it? Because hidden within this, hidden among this, there is a tremendous opportunity. That is an opportunity that I want to share with you today. That is an opportunity that talks about moving from an activity-driven focus to a productivity-driven focus in a remote environment. What you see here is, like a bunch of Dutch strawberry pluckers. When I was raised, I grew up in a world where I loved plucking strawberries on my sister's farm. And so what we went to, we generally, strawberries are, in these, what you see down here is they're laying on the ground and they're dirty. And so these folks are laying on their bellies in order to pluck these strawberries. Strawberry plucking from the ground is a really, really hard job. It's hard on your back because you constantly bend over, and as you see, they've solved it. What I found amazing when I was doing this job as a 12, 13, 14 years old in the Netherlands on my sister's farm, is that I did not get paid for working 9 to 5. The amount of money I got paid was based on how much strawberries I plucked. They were measured in like a little case, and how many baskets you plucked. That's how you were paid. And everybody got paid whatever they worked that day. If you worked twice as hard, you got paid twice as much. And what a concept that is. And so I want to take you through, and I want to take you to a quick look. It says, and let's Google, what is the definition? Let's define productive. Let's see what it says. And what you see here, the productive says being able to produce a large amount of goods, crops, or other commodities. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see. There we go. And so you'll see that. But also, what does it mean to be productive? Let's take a read at that. If you're productive, that means you do a lot. Yeah, I like that. You create or produce large amount of something. I like that even better. A productive worker makes more widgets than the shirker, I have no idea what a shirker is, who keeps sneaking out to gossip and drink coffee. Now I know what a shirker is. Somebody who keeps sneaking out to gossip and drink coffee. Yes, and that actually reminds me, that happens a lot, obviously, in places of where we are getting together. We're sneaking out and grabbing coffee, specifically in San Francisco, great coffee places. I'm certain that those places are all around. Productivity can be used more broadly to describe something or someone that produces a positive result. And that's what I love, a positive result. That is what it is to be productive. That is what I love. So how can we turn that productivity, that positivity, I want positive production. What I'm going to give you is that we found that there's 3 specific keys needed to unlock productivity. There are 3. I'm going to take you to these three, of which the first 2 are quite known. Number 1, activity is a critical part of productivity. It is not that one excludes the other. No, productivity is built on activity. In order to achieve something, you got to do something, in this case, doing the physical work. In case of sales, it may be having phone calls, making proposals, researching a client, being on discovery calls, and so on and so forth. That may be the activity. In marketing, it may be creating campaigns, measuring the data. This is physical activity that needs to take place. Often you are managed by a manager doing that. You have a boss or somebody who's coordinating this. In order for that activity to be the start of productive, you actually need to know what you're doing. For example, if you're writing emails, you probably shouldn't start 3 paragraphs in your email. Hi, my name is, I like to ask you, I. Probably an email, that would not be a great thing when you're reaching out to customers. And so we're going to train you on knowledge. And obviously, as Winning by Design, we got a great training department. You are certified. The outcome of training, however, is certification, not productivity. What we now see is the activity plus knowing how to do it by itself still does not lead to productivity. And that is because of the last one. What we see is that people who have gotten certified are actually not doing the job. They're not going out and making it happen. And as a result, that knowledge and activity does not translate into that productivity. In order to achieve that, we need to think of it as not longer as managing, but we need somebody to understand here how you apply that knowledge. We refer to that as skills. And for this, we're going to deploy coaching, in which coaching is the missing element to turn activity into productivity. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how we can do that. What we originally thought is that managers would become coaches. Wouldn't that make the most sense? And that these managers would start coaching remotely. What we noticed is that managers, not per se, about 1 in every 10 is a good coach, but most managers are not great coaches. As a friend of mine, once said, it's like when they became a manager, they really thought they would become a coach. But every day that they worked more reports, provided more feedback, and were more drawn on by management to create reports, provide insights and whatnot, more and more they became a manager, to the point that they've actually lost all the effort in order to become a coach. Now, what we noticed is that may not be a bad thing. Coaching does not assume that you have all the knowledge. We find that multiple people in the organization have different skills. I have several people on our team who love text editing, my presentations and my work. I love to write, they love to edit. I love to help people write and can coach how to write something. They can coach and they have the skill set on how to properly punctuate and create, to the point sentences. So they can coach that. We have some people on our team who love shooting videos, who love, tinkering around with how to create videos. We have some people who love tools. We actually have lots of people who love tools. They can coach on tools. The idea here is that coaching does not have to reside with that person. Doesn't have to reside with the manager, with a single person. It does not. It really does not. They can sit with everyone. Everybody who has the knowledge, is passionate about it and good about it, folks, do it. This is a realization that coaching can take place anywhere in the organization. What we now need to do is we need to enable the coaching remotely. We need to create an environment where we can coach each other. because we know that through coaching of activity with knowledge, we result in productivity. How can we create and enable an environment where people start coaching each other? Now, we see this all the time. For those of you who have kids, you've seen this in classroom. No longer, are teachers the bearer of all the knowledge. No longer do they know exactly what to do and how high Mount Himalaya is and whatnot. What we see is that today, teachers enable their classrooms with content and with insights. Everybody's armed with computers and iPads and so on and so forth. And what teachers do, is they enable that kids talk about the content that they're sharing. The content often comes from a centralized learning institution, and they are creating that learning environment in the classroom. It shows you that enabling is happening right now everywhere all around us, and how important it is. But what we have seen is that we have not been able to translate that successfully to the workplace. So let me take you to a work week on how we would enable this. What you see down here is a 5-day work week. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop activities. So I'm going to start with on Monday, I'm going to create a how-to class. And this class could be one that I give, like whoever has the bearer of that knowledge can give on how to write an email, whoever is the passionate person inside the company. It could be, in many different ways. You could have an external speaker delivering that. Think of this as a masterclass. Whoever is doing this is sharing this. Now, I want you to think that the power of your colleague sharing this is as important as the power of a master speaker. Then what are we going to do? The next day, we're going to practice this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag and drop this over, and I'm going to create that practice on Tuesday. Now, practicing generally is role play. Not everybody likes that, so maybe we can interleave it. Sometimes practice, and sometimes we do a workshop. Either way works. Workshop, I'm going to demonstrate to you what that is. Then on Wednesday, we have to make sure we do it. Let's go, just do it, okay? You have to apply this. And then, and this is important, on a Friday, we're going to review it as a team. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see what did we learn that week about? Did it work or did it not work? And what you have down here is a coaching environment. Not just do I talk on Monday about what we need to do, but I have activities set at the end of the week to discuss it. I have a workshop or a role play where we're going to step through this. Now, in this, you see a number of key assets. So I'm going to demonstrate to you what are some of these key assets. Now, where we focus on at Winning by Design, on that how-to, we believe in blueprints. In this blueprint, what you see down here, I am essentially creating a task that has what we call micro actions. So in this case, what we are demonstrating is storytelling. And what I'm going to do in this storytelling exercise, I am going to create micro tasks. Micro task number 1 is the situation, elaborate on the pain, show the consequences of pain, and then demonstrate the impact that your product provides. This story is referred to as the story of a person in the whole. You'll see that down here. I go through that. That is the whole story. It's a renowned storytelling format with 4 micro tasks: situation, pain with consequences, and impact. And what I see in this particular storyline is that is what I'm going to explain. Now, people want to know, they just don't want to know, like, I get it. They want to know, why is that story so important? And so in this case, you provide research material. This could be a TED video that says, like, hey, here's the story behind doing that. When people realize, there is science behind this, I understand why this story needs to be, they become way more committed. Now what you can do the next day, you can, after they've watched the video, let's say on Monday, on Tuesday we can role play. Okay, let's deliver this story. How would it work? And we can start practicing on each other. And by doing that, as we go back and forth, we learn. We're no longer learning in front of the customer while doing it on the customer. We're learning as a group. We start to engage. And we can do this remotely. It is so easy to do this remotely. It's almost like remote is even better than in person. Now, not everybody and not every exercise is good for role play. If we're talking about a discovery call, which questions to ask, role plays sometimes take too much time. What we're going to demonstrate down here is a tool called Merle. And Merle is a tool where we can visualize something and we can start tacking yellow post-it notes in the online domain to it. So we have multiple people who can look at one of these murals, and then as they are tacking on, say like I would ask this question now, we can structure, we can sequence. I'm going to demonstrate down here on the left is that tool, and you see how people are maneuvering their specific post-it notes across the screen. This allows for a great conversation. Would you diagnose that problem by asking this question first or that? Would it be open, closed, closed, open? What would it be? What would the sequence be? This tells us that we have a great ability to work together in the online environment. And again, this is done better online than it is done in real life scenario, because all of us have equal rights, equal voice. When you start typing on these post-it notes, as I've done now on a number of occasions myself, I was amazed. While I'm generally a loud person in a meeting, as you can imagine, like everybody had an equal voice. It was really democratic, and it created for a lot of other thoughts entering in the process. Workshopping online. Then the final step, what I spoke about, was how do we socialize and gain peer-to-peer feedback? What you see down here on this particular diagram is that you see the block here on the side. That's what we call a bingo card. In that bingo card of this specific of this skill that we talk about here, we create these micro skills. These micro skills create test points: situation, pain, and impact. And we test against that. Rather than people giving random opinions, we say it's like, hey, if we unpacked that particular skill set in those specific key areas, then let's test each other. So when people are giving each other feedback or coaching each other, that whoever created this has created the framework of thinking. What you now see, we are no longer opinionated. We can discuss it. We can iterate on the framework. That is beautiful. If you think you should do it differently, then by all means we should do it differently, but then we need to add that to the framework. Now, what this gives us a great way of thinking about it. If I now go back, it tells you, for each of these activities, I have a way how to do it. That video, for example, in the how-to video on top, we've seen is a great asynchronous video that somebody can do, like a screen recording, right? Like do a quick screen record on a Zoom session, on a WebEx, whatever, record it. And then as you share that with the audience in advance, then the next day you're gonna practice or workshop. 2 days of just doing it. And arguably, I have to say, I would expect that people are already doing it down here, but that would be me, right? Right after practice, immediately go apply it, so I can see how that it would work this way. And then, on the end of the week, review it by using one of those bingo cards. That gives us a way to do this. There's 4 things I want you to focus on when you start doing. 4 key principles you need to adhere to. Number 1, what I want you to make sure is that you think that peer-based is more important than one person who is the expert on every skill every week. It ain't right. What we need to rotate is that skill to different people. Different people have different skills. There is no single person who knows it all. This peer-based review makes your entire workforce a potential pool for coaches. There is always somebody there. We the other day we started polling inside our company what people love, and we have like deep sea divers, kite surfers. One of us is a renowned watch salesperson online. We have lots of these exciting people, and that is just outside the work. Inside the work, there's an equal diversity on skills. We need to enable them. You cannot just say go for it. You need to enable that framework. Like I said, record a video. Create a little workshop around it or role play around it, then let them do it during the week, and then create a bingo card at the end of the week where we're going to review how it worked and what worked and give each other feedback. Encourage iteration. Even the frameworks we create, we want you to iterate, make it your own. That doesn't work for you. I'm sure that 70% of it worked. Don't drop the 70% that works. Iterate on the 25, 10, 20, 30% that doesn't work. Make it your own. Leverage the best of what others have done. And allow for mistakes. None of these things will work one-off. There is no pro athlete, there is no professional in the world who's doing everything right at first. Allow for mistakes. Let people make mistakes. This is one of the toughest things that I see, managers and leadership have a hard time adjusting to. Let people make a mistake. If they're going to make a mistake, let them. And don't say, come back and say, I told you so. That doesn't help anyone. Just let them make a mistake. They learn from it. Great, move on. Sometimes making a mistake once learns 5 times faster than them just, I'm not going to do it. I know it already. Go make a mistake. Allow for mistakes. When you do that, that to me is a good start of a coaching infrastructure. That coaching infrastructure, peer-based, coach each other, enable with content and material. And that doesn't have to be, anything but public material. There's great stuff on the internet now. There's great videos, like our YouTube channel, for example. Enable them with materials. Create it. Doesn't have to be complex. Open up a shared document. Start writing. Encourage, to make sure that we iterate it. What do you think? Well, how should we improve it? And allow for mistakes. Do these 4 things and you're going to see you can switch from activity to productivity, or from productivity to activity managing, right? You can go back and forth. You feel like you're too activity driven, you become more productivity driven. Folks, we live in a world where this is not only a different opportunity that we face, it's a different time. We have a different generation of people. We need to think different. We can't keep doing this. We can't do annual sales kickoffs with like 2 weeks of training or 2 weeks of XYZ, even in the remote, it won't work. I certainly hope to have encouraged you to go on this path. On the Winning by Design YouTube channel, we provide lots of insights that you can use in order to create this material. We hope that you will. With that said, I want to thank you very much. Before I do that, I want to ask you one thing. Point your phone at this. As we enter up on the holiday season, I used in this case the DeLorean for time travel. If you would be so kind, the Michael J. Fox organization donates to the Parkinson research. I wanted to make sure that we give them an opportunity to help other people with this terrible issue that they are facing. It's the holiday season. And with that, I want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me. I'm looking much forward to spending more time with you in the future. And with that said, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday period.